Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Monica. I like to post anti-MLMs, that's anti-multi-level marketing, life, and some true crime content here on this channel. So if any of that interests you, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I would love for you to stick around. In today's video, I'm not necessarily bringing you guys anti-MLM content, but I did want to discuss a company that had quite a number of problematic and shady things said by the founder. So we're going to be going over Lululemon today. Just as a disclaimer, this video is for entertainment purposes only and just my opinions, along with all of my sources will be left in the description box below, but please do your own research as well. This is going to be more than one part. This part is going to cover the company itself, while part 2 is going to go over the true crime portion of the Lululemon murders. So if you're here for a true crime video about that, that's not what this video is about. It's about the company itself, because I started to do a little bit of a background of the company while I was researching for a true crime video, and then I just stumbled upon just so many things about Lululemon that are terrible. Within this video, there are a lot of claims that the founder of the company made throughout his time with Lululemon that I will be debunking as well. I do want to say that Lululemon is not a multi-level marketing company. I've seen that question asked even in my comment section on previous videos. LuLaRoe, however, the moldy legging company, in my opinion, that Vice made an entire documentary on, is a multi-level marketing company, but Lululemon is not. I normally like to keep my deep dives in chronological order, but for this particular company, in this particular video, there were certain things that just kind of flowed a little bit better when it wasn't in chronological order. So without further ado, let's just get into this hot mess that is Lululemon. Lululemon was founded by Dennis Wilson, otherwise known as Chip Wilson, and that's how we're going to refer to him going forward, in 1998, and originally started selling yoga pants and other yoga products, but went on to expand into 460 stores internationally. In November of 2000 is when they had their first standalone store opening. They now sell athletic apparel and accessories. If we look at the history portion on their website, it does say that our vision for our store was to create more than a place where people could get gear to sweat in. We wanted to create a community hub where people could learn and discuss the physical aspects of healthy living, mindfulness, and living a life of possibility. It was also important for us to create real relationships with our guests and understand what they were passionate about, how they like to sweat, and help them celebrate their goals. Today, we do this in our stores around the globe. Our product. Our first designs were made for women to wear during yoga. Through plenty of feedback from our guests, ambassadors, and elite athletes, we now design for yoga, running, cycling, training, and most other sweaty pursuits for women and men. Not to mention, our designers are athletes and sweat-minded people too. Our best life. A constant that has never wavered is our desire to empower people to reach their full potential through providing the right tools and resources and encouraging a culture of leadership, goal setting, and personal responsibility. Our core values of personal responsibility, entrepreneurship, honesty, courage, connection, fun, and inclusion are lived by our people every day and are at the heart of our unique company culture. We live a life we love. We set our goals to align with our vision, and that's why so often our one-year goals become today's reality. I have seen quite a number of people say that Lululemon itself has a cult-like following, or that the company culture itself is very cult-like. Some have even said that it is a cult. Now, I've never worked for the company. I've never been on the inside of the company, so at this point, I really can't. This is all just he said, she said type of things, which we're going to go over a few testimonials later. And also there is a little snippet of information I'm going to give you guys later as well. But yeah, some people just really think that this company is very toxic and cult-like, which I can see why, because they tend to hire people who are like-minded people or who are constantly eating healthy, are constantly working out with each other, and things of that nature. So I can see why some people would accuse it of being cult-like, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that, as I said, later on in the video. Since we're on the topic of the beginnings of Lululemon and how they came about, let's start off with the problematic things that good old Chip Wilson has said about the company and how he even came up with the company name. Chip Wilson would say that he decided to have the company's name have so many L's in it so that the Japanese buyers would have difficulty pronouncing it. He told Canada's National Post Business magazine, quote, "It's funny to watch them try and say it," end quote, meaning the company's name. That is so disgusting and so racist, and I honestly, I wish I was joking telling you guys this portion of the video. There is a Facebook post that goes over how the name Lululemon Athletica was created, and I will leave this linked below in case you want to read the entire thing. But they do go over a little bit more about the company and, of course, the whole naming of the company. But they ended off with saying, in essence, the name Lululemon has no roots and means nothing other than it has 3 L's in it, nothing more and nothing less. Many companies have their own marketing campaigns to target a specific audience or a specific customer. When it comes to Lululemon, Chip had a very specific customer in mind. This customer was a 32-year-old professional single woman named Ocean who makes $100,000 a year. According to the New York Times, Chip said that Ocean is also engaged, has her own condo, is traveling, fashionable, and has an hour and a half to work out a day, which I don't know why he would say that she's also engaged, but she's also single. Unless if in his eyes he doesn't believe that someone is no longer single once they're in a relationship or once they're engaged. Maybe he's one of those people who thinks that you're no longer single once you get married and sign on the dotted line and have that piece of paper. Unless if he's thinking of maybe 2 different types of customers named Ocean and that they're very similar. Maybe one is single, one is engaged. I don't know. I can see where he would get this kind of customer from because in order to afford these really expensive leggings, you have to be making a decent amount of money. Leggings that sell for over $100 is what I would call more of a luxury item. I mean, I just bought $10 leggings from Target that do the same exact job as the Lululemon ones do. However, it doesn't get any better. Chip not only had a specific customer in mind, which even though their pricing is outrageous, I get it. You have a certain target market, but that target market clearly at the time of him saying the following was only for a certain body size. During a Bloomberg TV interview, Chip thought it would be a good idea to say that some women's bodies just don't work for his yoga pants. Quote, "They don't work for some women's bodies. It's really about the rubbing through the thighs, how much pressure is there over a period of time, how much they use it," end quote. For Chip to say that is, first of all, insulting and body shaming because he said it's really about the rubbing through the thighs. I'm sorry, but if I'm only buying 1 pair of leggings for $100, I expect that quality to be top-notch and last for a very long time. I'll even put up a photo on the screen of a Twitter post that shows a sign that Lululemon had in its window that caused quite a bit of outrage, rightfully so. While I was researching for this video, I found a few different videos online talking about Lululemon hacks as a customer, so how to shop for Lululemon and things of that nature. There was more than one video that did talk about how their return policy, you can try to bring back a pair of old Lululemon leggings and exchange it for a new pair. Any Lululemon employees watching this, let me know if that's actually true or if this is just for a YouTube video and it's a bunch of nonsense. I mean, I know that when I was working at Nordstrom, I worked in the dress department, and as long as they had that, not even the receipt, as long as they had the tag, because they would put a little sticker on the back of the tag that was your receipt, as long as you had that tag, you could return it. And there was one dress that was returned that it was bad. It was gross. So I hope that at least if this is something that Lululemon does, I hope that they're recycling the fabric. Maybe they send it back to someone and they clean it, take it apart, recycle it, whatever, because if they're just damaging it out, that's just such a waste, especially for a company that is talking about sustainability and things like that. What I will say though is if I buy these leggings and within a few months they're falling apart, that's a problem. This interview was in regards to the sheer legging debacle in March of 2013. Lululemon had some defective pants that were somehow see-through if you were in the middle of doing the downward dog position. They did have to recall these, but it didn't fix the problem. There were still customer complaints that were saying the leggings were too sheer. After this interview, the board advised him not to make any more public statements or do any more interviews. Once the company lost $67 million, Chip was forced to step down as chairman, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Even though Chip clearly thought only people of certain sizes could wear Lululemon, I will say that since all of this, they did add sizes that go up to size 20. I'm not plus size, so I cannot speak on the fit from personal experience. I'll be honest, I never even tried on a pair of Lululemon leggings because I always thought that they were too expensive anyway, so why bother trying them on if I know I'm not willing to spend that kind of money on them? Before that interview though, there were many other problematic things that Chip had to say, especially about women. There was a blog post that was posted by Chip, and it's no longer on the website along with Chip Wilson's name, but it says, "Women's lives changed immediately after the pill. Men did not know how to relate to the new female. Thus came the era of divorces. With divorce and publicity around equality, women in the 1970s and 1980s found themselves operating as power women. The media convinced women that they could win at home and be a man's equal in the business world. Women put in 12-hour workdays, attempted to keep a clean and orderly house, and give their children all the love they had pre-divorce. What they gave up, however, was their social life, exercise, balance, and sleep. The 1980s gave way to power women dressing like men in boardroom attire with big shoulder pads. They went to 3 martini lunches and smoked because this is what their successful fathers did in the business world. Breast cancer also came into prominence in the 1990s. I suggest this was due to the number of cigarette-smoking power women who were on the pill. Initial concentrations of hormones in the pill were very high, and taking on the stress previously left to men in the working world. Ultimately, Lululemon was formed because female education levels, breast cancer, yoga, or athletics, and the desire to dress feminine came together all at once." I mean, if that doesn't tell you about the kind of person the founder is, then I don't know what will. I didn't know that Chip was an expert when it came to the science behind a birth control pill or an expert in divorces. Did you maybe stop to, do a little thing called research the increase in divorce rates? Maybe there's a statistical explanation. According to ourworldinData.org, they do have a portion that goes over the divorce rates that were increased after the year 1970. This article goes on to say trends in the rate of divorces relative to the size of the population. How have divorce rates changed over time? Are divorces on the rise across the world? The pattern of rising divorce rates followed by a plateau or fall in some countries, particularly richer countries, might be partially explained by the differences in divorce rates across cohorts and the delay in marriage we see in younger couples today. Economists Betsy Stevenson and Justin Wolfers looked in detail at the changes in driving forces in marriage and divorce rates in the U.S. They suggest that the changes we see in divorce rates may be partly reflective of the changes in expectations within marriages as women entered the workforce. Women who married before the large rise in female employment may have found themselves in marriages where expectations were no longer suited. Many people in the post-war years married someone who was probably a good match for the post-war culture, but ended up being the wrong partner after the times had changed. This may have been a driver behind the steep rise in divorces throughout the 1970s and 1980s. Chip attributes the rise in divorces due to the pill, which was approved by the FDA in 1957, but only for severe menstrual disorders. The pill was approved for contraceptive use in 1960. By 1964, the pill was still very controversial and was illegal in 8 states. With that said, it wasn't readily available to every single woman overnight. While divorces did increase in the 60s, they were still slower than divorces in the early 1950s. It wasn't until the 1970s that there was a spike in divorces. It seems like Chip didn't do a quick Google search to see what the statistics actually were and maybe what else happened within that time period that could have caused the spike. Another thing that he didn't quite look into very well was why, in his opinion, breast cancer became more prominent in the 1990s. His thought process, as I mentioned earlier, said it was because of the power women that were smoking and on the pill, along with taking on stress that before women entered the workforce, all of that stress was left for men. Wow, he must really think we're fragile or something. Let's break this down, shall we? Chip wasn't entirely wrong that there were some side effects that arose from birth control. There was a book published in 1969 that talked about how there are risks of blood clots, heart attack, stroke, depression, weight gain, and loss of libido. In 1988, the original high-dose birth control was taken off the market, and an FDA study showed that newer birth control had decreased risk of ovarian cancer, iron deficiency anemia, and pelvic inflammatory disease. In 2010, there were still over 1,000 lawsuits against Bayer due to blood clots, heart attacks, and strokes that were allegedly caused by certain birth control pills. However, Chip believed that the rise in breast cancer in the 90s was because of these power women who were smoking, drinking, stressed out, and taking the pill. Let's look at those numbers really quick. This next portion is from the National Library of Medicine. There was an estimated 68,000 new cases of breast cancer among U.S. women in 1970. By 2014, there was a 242% increase in new cases of female breast cancer. During this period, 1970 to 2014, the U.S. population increased 56.8%. Thus, the rate of increase in female breast cancer has been more than fourfold the increase in the U.S. population during the same period. By comparison, new cases of colon or rectal cancer in U.S. women rose 84% between 1970 and 2014, surpassing the rise in the United States population during the same period by nearly half. Even more astonishing, cigarette-related lung cancer in U.S. women rose 884% between 1970 and 2014. Nonetheless, lung cancer still ranked a distant second to new cases of female breast cancer in 2014. According to Mayo Clinic, risk factors for breast cancer are linked to being a woman, although men are able to get breast cancer too, so it's not just a woman's disease. Increasing age, a personal history of breast conditions, a personal history of breast cancer, family history of breast cancer, inherited genes that increase cancer risk, radiation exposure, obesity, beginning your period at a younger age, beginning menopause at an older age, having your first child at an older age, having never been pregnant, postmenopausal hormone therapy, and drinking alcohol. One thing I wanted to mention is when Chip said that women were more stressed out now that they were power women, does he think that being a stay-at-home mom was an easy job? There have been so many articles that have come out saying stay-at-home moms work more than one full-time job, and if they were to receive salaries, it would be in the $100,000 plus a year range. In addition to that, one article says, quote, "Women are no stranger to hard work, and this has been proven just by looking at the academic qualifications of women since the 80s. Women have earned more bachelor's degrees than men since 1982, more master's degrees than men since 1987, and more doctorate degrees than men since 2006, end quote. I don't believe that someone's worth or success should be based off of just their college degrees, because there are some brilliant people out there who never went to college, but I still wanted to add that in here to show that these women aren't fragile, stressed out human beings that Chip thinks. I'm sure there are more studies out there that show even more information regarding the things Chip has said, so feel free to leave it in the comment section. Chip Wilson has also been known to say that he believes there is a place for children in the workplace. Yep, he said that. I guess he hasn't heard of a thing called child labor laws. Within the Insider article that has listed a ton of problematic things regarding Chip Wilson and Lululemon as a whole, this is what they had to say about the topic. Another publication reported that according to those who attended a conference, Wilson told the delegates third world children should be allowed to work in factories because it provides them with much needed wages. They also say he argued that even in Canada, there is a place for 12 and 13-year-old street youths to find work in local factories as an alternative to collecting handouts. Quote, "I look at it the same way the WTO does it, and that is that the single easiest way to spread wealth around the world is to have poor countries pull themselves out of poverty." End quote. In 2007, Lululemon had come under some scrutiny after their claims with their one line called Vita C that was made out of seaweed, according to them. The tags on these pieces said that the fabric releases marine amino acids, minerals, and vitamins into the skin upon contact with moisture. Lululemon at one point even said that the clothing was made from seaweed fiber that came from their supplier C-Cell. Apparently, this type of fiber was supposed to help reduce stress, provides anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, hydrating, and detoxifying benefits. The issue was that the New York Times had the Lululemon clothing lab tested and they didn't find seaweed in the fibers that Lululemon claimed to have. When Chip was asked about this, he said, quote, "If you actually put it on and wear it, it is different from cotton. That's my only test of it," end quote. Yep, you heard that right. Chip didn't have any lab testing to back up these claims besides that it felt different when you wore it. You can't put a label on a shirt and show that it's 24% seaweed if you don't have the testing to back that up, and that your only reasoning is because it feels different. Not to mention, Lululemon also made the other claims that they had on these tags about releasing amino acids and whatnot. Needless to say, Lululemon did comply with a decision from Canada's Competition Bureau to remove all claims from the Vita C collection with the alleged health benefits. The Textile Labeling Act does say that it is illegal to make false or misleading representations relating to a garment, including representations regarding fiber content. After all of this happened, even though Chip said that the only test of it that he had was that the clothing felt different, I'm not sure if he was misinformed or if this was just their publicist saving the day. There was another article that said there was testing done on the fabric. It just wasn't done independently by Lululemon itself. According to CBC, Lululemon said that Smart Fiber AG, which was the developer of C-Cell, the supplier of Lululemon's Vita C line, did have independent testing done in December of 2006 that did confirm the presence of vitamins, minerals, and amino acids in the fabric. Lululemon also said that a lab in Hong Kong tested the fabric in June of 2007, then again on November 14, 2007, and confirmed its contents were as advertised. I haven't seen the testing, so I haven't seen the evidence to back this up, but if that is true, it looks like the issue wasn't 100% Lululemon saying their clothing was made of seaweed when it wasn't, but a mixture of that and unsubstantiated claims. Chip believes that if you get sick or if your life isn't going great, it's all your fault and that 99% of illness is the effect of stress. I didn't know that he was a doctor. Not only did he just believe this, but he actually had this printed on their red shopping bags at one point. There were phrases such as stress is related to 99% of all illness, friends are more important than money, and Coke, Pepsi, and all other pops will be known as the cigarettes of the future. Colas are no substitute for water. They are just another cheap drug made to look great by advertising. There were more sayings that were printed on these bags, as you can see with that picture above, that even mention how sunscreen absorbed into the skin might be worse than sunshine, but there are also some that had a little bit of truth to them. I'll leave a great article link below that goes over more of these sayings if you're interested. I think it's common sense that water is healthier than soda, but he took this to an extreme. Saying friends are more important than money is really vague, because what if those friends are toxic and actually taking money from you? What if they aren't supportive? In that case, I wouldn't say they're more important than money. Now, I may be nitpicking here, but as someone who was in multiple toxic friendships and didn't realize it until the damage was done, I choose my friends very wisely nowadays. I think it's unhealthy to promote that friends are more important than money when you don't know the situation. Some of your customers might have taken that to heart while at the same time they're being taken advantage of. As for stress being related to 99% of all illness, oh, Mr. Wilson, please tell me if you watched Dennis the Menace as a kid. Where is your source for this? Cite your sources. He had even written about The Secret, which is something I mentioned in one of my recent videos, and if it's the same thing that I'm thinking of, I'll leave Cruel World Happy Minds video link below about this subject. I'd love to do a deep dive into that as well, but if you're unfamiliar with it and don't have time to watch Madison's video, a brief overview is it was a self-help book that was written by Rhonda Byrne in 2006. It uses the same beliefs of law of attraction, where they claim that thoughts can change a person's life directly. Oprah even backed up The Secret. Within this same post, Chip wrote, "Health attracts health, sickness attracts sickness." According to one source I found, they dove into a few of the claims Lululemon had made about stress, and they dove into it as if the stress that Lululemon is referring to is emotional distress. They did write that no matter which type of stress they're talking about, this claim is fairly easy to debunk. For starters, about 16% of deaths that occur worldwide are from infectious diseases such as HIV or AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, none of which have anything to do with stress. If we only look at the US, a few of the leading causes of death, including heart disease and stroke, do appear to have some relationship to stress, but there's no evidence that cancer, which causes about 23% of all deaths, has any relationship to psychological stress. Now, if we talk about illnesses that don't cause death, the picture is murkier, partly because no one collects such detailed records on the distribution of an illness. Still, it's very hard to support the 99% claim. While stress does seem to make people more likely to catch a cold and the flu, it has nothing to do with food poisoning, for instance. It's hard to imagine diseases like this don't add up to even a single percent of all illnesses. To continue this law of attraction belief, Chip believes that if your life isn't great, it's all your fault. To an extent, I can agree with this because there are certain choices you make in your life that only you are responsible for. For example, if I decide to go online shopping and I spend too much money knowing that I have debt or bills to pay, and I do it anyway and dig myself into an even bigger hole, yeah, that's my fault. Been there, done that in my early 20s. Not everything in your life is a choice though. Things happen that are out of your control. What if you get diagnosed with a chronic illness or even cancer and you were as healthy as you possibly could be your entire life, but for whatever reason, you were diagnosed with this illness? What if you don't have the same privileges as others? I'm not trying to make excuses for anyone who is making a conscious choice to be a lazy person in life. However, there are reasons behind some people who truly work hard and will never get to the same point as others. Case in point, Rachel Hollis' most recent TikTok that she has since taken down. I'll link Savvy's video below because she did a great job dissecting that entire TikTok and the situation that followed with the sorry excuse for an apology. In 2008, Christine Day, who was a former co-president of Starbucks, became CEO of Lululemon. Chip was still a chairman at the time, but the company did not specify if this was due to his behavior or if it was for other reasons. I'm going to safely speculate it had something to do with how problematic Chip is. If we fast forward to August of 2012, Lululemon sued Calvin Klein for alleged unspecified damages for patent infringement of yoga pants of 3 different patents. Specifically, they were suing because of a waistband in their Astro Pant line. The patents that Lululemon has protects their products sold in the US. In November of 2012, they did reach a settlement. The terms of the settlement are confidential, but after both companies agreed to settle, Lululemon withdrew the case. One journalist, Louise Lau, analyzed the effects of this lawsuit and they said, quote, "In an industry that has traditionally accepted inspiration and appropriation as the status quo, Lululemon Athletica's lawsuit against Calvin Klein Incorporated speaks loudly to the shifting paradigm of the application of intellectual property law to the fashion industry." The high-end yoga and sports apparel maker filed a complaint in the U.S. District Court for the District of Delaware alleging that Calvin Klein's performance pant infringes on Lululemon's design patent for its Astro Pant. Design patents offer protection to the ornamental features of a creation. This presents challenges in the fashion industry because the limited life of certain pieces from season to season rarely warrant a patent, end quote. In December of 2013, Chip Wilson announced his resignation as chairman and the president of Tom's Shoes, Lauren Potdevin, would become CEO. This was due to the $67 million loss thanks to the sheer leggings debacle that I mentioned earlier. However, stock prices did decrease with Lululemon, and according to a Washington Post article, Janet Kloppenberg of JJK Research said that the stock price dropping could have also been due to the distraction of dealing with the recall. During this time, Lululemon was trying to improve the quality that they didn't pay attention to the trends of patterns and bright colors coming into the mix of yoga clothes, which makes sense. And I'll be honest, when I think of Lululemon, I don't think of bright colors and patterns when it comes to their clothing. Another issue was when they had to recall 380,000 hoodies due to their drawstrings being dangerous and snapping people's faces in 2015. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the recall date was June 25th, 2015. There were reported injuries, several to the face and eyes. Lululemon told their customers to remove the elastic drawstring that had, I believe it was a metal or like a harder plastic or something like that at the end of it, and that Lululemon would send a new one with instructions on how to put it in the hoodie. If a customer couldn't do it themselves, they could bring it into Lululemon and have one of the employees do it for them. The company went on to release a men's apparel line as well. Just like the women's line, who had a target customer named Ocean, for the men's line, the target customer was named Duke. According to Insider, quote, Duke is named after one of Wilson's sons. He's 35 and an athletic opportunist who enjoys surfing in the summer and snowboarding in the winter. Duke makes more than Ocean and is willing to pay up for quality, end quote. Why does Duke have to make more money than Ocean? For a brand that heavily focused on women for the longest time, I would have liked to see that Ocean was more successful in seeing a little bit more of women empowerment. I mean, Ocean was purchasing from Lululemon long before, so she probably already has a closet full of money wasted on Lululemon. But alas, Chip yet again thinks that women are fragile little human beings. They even tried to sell beer to, I guess, attract men, but I mean, women drink beer too, and this is supposed to be a fitness brand. It doesn't really scream fitness. I would have thought they'd go more in the direction of shakes or supplements or something like that. There were a lot of complaints with the men's line, from the logo of Lululemon being off-putting to the boxer shorts falling apart too easily. The boxer shorts falling apart is something worth complaining about, especially if you're paying so much money for them. As for the logo, customers found it off-putting because it was associated with women. I'm sorry, I really hate to take Lululemon's side on this, but it's their brand. They can do whatever they want with logo placement, but for the customers to be upset over a logo placement all because it's associated with women, I mean, that's laughable. But maybe I just don't have any sympathy left over after researching Lululemon for so long. In 2014, the first Lululemon store opened up in Europe, which was located in Covent Garden, London. Chip Wilson would go on to resign from the board in February of 2015. In 2018, Laurent Potdevin resigned as CEO and from the board due to misconduct. Calvin McDonald would become the new CEO of Lululemon. According to CNBC, Laurent Potdevin had a multi-year relationship with a female designer at Lululemon, and this was one of the issues that contributed to his departure, sources tell CNBC. The employee in the relationship with Potdevin resigned in 2014 after the relationship had begun. Lululemon later brought her back to work on discrete company projects as a contractor. In January of 2018, it did not renew her contract. Potdevin's relationship with the designer is one of several instances in which he demonstrated a lack of leadership at Lululemon, sources tell CNBC. Former employees say he had a negative impact on the company's culture, for example, which they described as toxic. Quote, anytime violations of company policies or standards of conduct are brought to our attention, we take appropriate action, end quote, a spokesperson said for Lululemon. The Washington Post reported that Potdevin will receive a cash payment of $5 million, $3.35 million up front, and $1.65 million over the next 18 months, according to a separation agreement filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Lululemon announced an investment in Mirror in 2019, which was a startup that sold a mirror with a camera and speakers for at-home workouts. The company would turn around and announce a $500 million deal to purchase Mirror in June of 2020. This was, of course, due to the pandemic and because most people are working out at home instead of going to a gym. In case you are curious about the pricing of the mirror, it starts at $1,495 and then the monthly subscription is separate. That subscription is $39 for a year-long commitment, along with being unlimited for 6 household members. I know some people will say that that's really expensive, but at the same time, the Peloton bike itself is $1,895, and the monthly subscription is the same as the mirror. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section for any of you who use either of these, because that's just what I found online. I don't know if there are hidden fees or anything like that. I do understand that, yes, it is expensive for workout equipment, but in the long run, if you are going to be using this all the time, every single day, it's probably going to pay off for you in the end anyway. Plus, I know a lot of people who are obsessed with their Peloton bikes. Oh, but wait, there's more. You guessed it wrong if you thought we were done talking about Lululemon. From the time of Lululemon being founded all the way through 2015, they used elements of the Landmark Forum in their leadership and development training. I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret. Remember that video I made about a company threatening me? Some of you guessed it right. It was Landmark. I don't care anymore, which is why I'm saying it in this video. I was actually thinking of changing the title of the video to show who it was and just leaving a pinned comment saying that I decided afterwards to show what company it was. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll change it. Who knows? I did want to address a comment that was made on that video of me showing you guys what the company sent me and things like that, because I'm sure others thought the same, but the comment said something along the lines of we should stand by our convictions, and me removing the video implies that I may have done something wrong. Clearly, by the evidence I showed in my video, I didn't. However, I've had some people who have been involved with the anti-MLM movement or who are ex-Scientologists tell me it would be better to just take the video down to save myself the headache, especially with Landmark, because they will keep coming for me. They're very well known to be relentless and come after literally anyone and everyone. They even went after Rick Ross just because they had the money to do so. If my life was a little different at the moment, I would have kept it up and gotten a lawyer because they really didn't have a leg to stand on. Unfortunately, I just cannot put myself through that right now. Not to mention, I'm not sure how many of you have been consuming anti-MLM content for years now, but there was a creator on YouTube named Ethan Vanderbilt. He was someone I binged in the very beginning of me finding anti-MLM content on YouTube back in 2019. Ethan had to remove all of his anti-MLM content. I believe he even had a blog or a website, correct me if I'm wrong, that was warning about the harms of these companies. Everything is gone because of these companies coming after him, and I don't believe he did anything wrong. He was just getting harassed. So it's not necessarily that you're implicating yourself. If you remember either the original video or my video debunking their nonsense threats, the company is a bit questionable, in my opinion, of course. I think them coming after a small creator who was just voicing an opinion and providing a critique speaks volumes. If you don't know that much about Landmark, it is a large group awareness training. Some have accused it of being a cult or cult-like, while others praise the company and say they had an awakening of sorts. Some testimonials show people calling loved ones, such as parents, and having a conversation with them for the first time in years. In my opinion, a lot of it seems very dramatic, and I do think it has to do with whatever is said within these meetings, because it's just like with any personal development seminar. It's all about hype, and I know a lot of people said that the Landmark Forum changed our lives forever, but I do question the company. A great example of these dramatic seminars is the Not Your Guru documentary that features Tony Robbins that Savvy and I did a collab on. And there is a woman who calls her significant other and breaks up with him in front of everyone in that conference room, while another couple talks about their sex life and how it's because the guy isn't masculine enough, so Tony makes him roar like a lion. It's all just a facade and riddled with toxic positivity. Anyway, Lululemon used Landmark Forum elements through 2015 within their leadership and development training. Landmark Forum does have a subsidiary group that focuses more on seminars for corporations and businesses. If I ever had to go back to work for someone else, if one of the requirements was to attend one of these seminars, I'd run for the hills and never look back. In addition to Lululemon implementing parts of Landmark Forum seminars, Chip Wilson was also a fan of Ayn Rand, who wrote the book Atlas Shrugged. He would implement some of the values from the book into Lululemon. It even got to the point in late 2011 that Lululemon had the phrase, "Who is John Galt?" printed on their shopping bags. John Galt is the main character of the Atlas Shrugged novel. Atlas Shrugged was met with a lot of negative reviews after it was published in 1957, but there are people out there who do like the book. The book is set in a dystopian United States, and I won't go into depth with the novel because I haven't read it myself, but the author said the goal for writing this novel was to show how desperately the world needs prime movers and how viciously it treats them, and to portray what happens to the world without them. Atlas Shrugged is also riddled with objectivism, which is something that the author was known for. I'll let y'all form your own opinion about this book, or let me know if you have read it, what you've heard about it. But there are a lot of critics out there that do not agree with this book and what was written in it. Lululemon calls their employees educators and their customers guests. Employees have spoken out about Lululemon. One topic at hand has been how and why they do this. According to the Wall Street Journal, employees aren't just being friendly, but are purposely trying to overhear what you are saying. This means employees are eavesdropping when you're having a conversation. They're trained to fold clothes near the fitting rooms instead of in the back rooms so that if there are any complaints, the employees can report back to corporate. One customer even said, quote, "When I buy stuff at Lululemon, they have often asked me where I work out, as well as who my favorite instructors are. This is not just idle talk. This kind of information is self-consciously gathered by Lululemon sales staffs and then reported back to Lululemon headquarters every 2 weeks," end quote. There have been many people who have talked about their experience working at Lululemon and how it's amazing. They say the environment is like a family and that most of them enjoy similar things such as working out and eating healthy. Some of them even work out after hours and go to special events and volunteer together as a team. There's one really great article that I recommend reading if you're interested where they go over the cult of selling at Lululemon. One employee in particular, Andrew Kumar, says that he didn't find the Landmark Forum or personal development eye-opening at all. He quit his $10 an hour job at Lululemon and said that the company required him to listen to Brian Tracy audiobooks during his free time and post his personal, professional, and health goals on his store wall. Quote, "They are so methodical and wanted to know so much about me," end quote, he says. While Lululemon isn't an MLM, their encouragement of reading self-help aligns with the MLM industry as well. I'm sure the work environment can have traces of toxic positivity if they are being encouraged to use self-help, and the fact that they used to send qualified Lululemon employees to the Landmark Forum is just worrisome to me. At the end of the day, I could see why people would call Lululemon a cult-like work environment or a toxic work environment, things of that nature, because if they really are heavily pushing personal development and self-help, those types of things, or positivity only, positive vibes only, that goes into a realm of toxic positivity, along with the issue that I have with personal development and why I will never read it again, thanks to the MLM industry actually, is because it makes it seem like they're trying to mold you into a different person. If you've watched some of my other anti-MLM content on this channel, I have showed trainings where reps will say, just read some personal development and things like that. And a lot of people will say that there's such a better person now thanks to the MLM and personal development and things like that. So I find that to be problematic. Along with that, I don't think that me as a person and how skeptical and critical of things that I am, I don't think that I would be able to work in an environment like Lululemon, because it looks like they probably promote toxic positivity without even knowing that they're doing it. Along with that, I don't think I could work for a company where the founder said and did all of these problematic things that I went over in this video, because it's just, to me, it's mind-blowing that he was part of the company for so long. Not to mention, I can't see myself ever paying $100 for a pair of leggings when I have a $10 pair of leggings that does the job just perfectly. I know that Chip Wilson is no longer part of Lululemon, but the company was built on his values. So for me, in my eyes, it's going to take more than just a few CEO changes to change my mind about the founding and the values that the company was built on. So that's all that I have for you guys today for part 1 of my Lululemon series. Part 2 is going to go over the Lululemon murder, so the true crime portion of, so if true crime is something that you are interested in and that's a topic that you like to consume, stay tuned for that. And I also need to finish this video because it is starting to storm outside and my dogs are starting to freak out. So they're gonna start just ruining the entire video. So with their whimpers and their jumping and all of that. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time. This is Monica reporting to you live from a highway. Bye.